Welcome to MyMathYourMath. Subscribe if you haven't.
Yo, welcome to MyMathYourMath. Today we're going to talk about inverse existence. When is there actually an inverse for a function? So last time we talked about how to find the inverse, but we didn't really talk about what functions actually have inverses on the entire domain of the real numbers. For example, the functions that do are called one-to-one functions. That means for every different pair of inputs, you get different pair of outputs. One of these guys is not like that. Two of these guys is. Now, the really quick way to tell is by looking at the graphs. If you look at the graphs, the guys that pass the horizontal line tests are one-to-one. That means if you draw a horizontal line anywhere on the graph, if it crosses only once, it passes. If it crosses more than once, it fails. For example, y equals x cubed. Any of these orange lines right here cross my graph only once. So that means this guy has an inverse, and its inverse happens to be the cube root. So y inverse is going to be the cube root of x. Is the inverse for this guy, and he is a one-to-one function, the x cubed function. X squared is not a one-to-one function. However, if you wanted to find the inverse would be y equaling square root of x. However, x would have to be greater than or equal to 0, so we would have to be looking at this side of the graph only. Technically, this one does not have an inverse, but if you restrict the domain, it would. So this would be the inverse for this one. All right. Lastly, for the exponential function, c, y equals e to the x. So this is the graph of the e to the x function. Anywhere you draw an orange horizontal line, it only crosses my graph once. Thus, there is an inverse for e to the x. The inverse for e to the x is actually the natural log. And it's good to know that since natural log is just log base e of e is x, so they are inverses of one another. That's actually a fun little exercise to do if you'd like to show yourself that these guys are inverses. Is natural log of x. And that is all for existence of inverses.